Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Dead Talk Live. Today we are joined by Drew Leighty, Hayley Greenbauer, and Ron Sloan, cast and stars of 13 Fanboy. The guys, thank you so much for spending Halloween with us. How you all doing?
Of course,
Doing great.
great.
Oh my
Thanks
God,
for
Rick.
having us.
And for those of you guys that are guessing who Drew is, he is Thor, Pandemic Thor.
That's right.
So I think that costume is great. Exactly.
Woo!
Guys, thank you so much. So, like I said, thank you so much for spending Halloween with us. And let's just get started right away. You guys all appear in Deborah Voorhees' 13 Fanboy. And I think it's great that we got the three of you because the three of you do not actually have a solid connection with the quote unquote Friday the 13th, what's the right word? Franchise, the original franchise. You guys have done different stuff. Well, Ron does.
Wait. Friday the 13th, part 5.
That's
baby.
right. That's right. I'm sorry about that. Friday the 13th, part 5 gets missed because it's not Jason. So I apologize for that. But actually, Friday the 13th, part 5, as we had Deborah on here a week or so ago, is one of the most popular ones out of the franchise, even though it wasn't Jason that was doing the killing. So kudos for that. It's just that for some reason the fans wanted Jason back and they did it in Friday the 13th, part 6. They went all Frankenstein's monster on him and brought him back with lightning. Anyway, so I want to start with Drew and work across the panel. Let me know how, first of all, you heard of this project and how did you become involved in it?
Well, I was first, I had finished Never Hike Alone, and Deborah called me, or Vinny called me saying that Deborah Voorhees wanted to talk to me, and I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, she wants to talk to you about a project. And I was like, all right, cool, give her my number. So I spoke with Deborah, and it started out as kind of vague at first, but then all of a sudden, like slowly, she started saying, I've got so-and-so on board, Vin's on board, we got Judy's on board, and just like Tracy's on, it just kept evolving. So I think Deborah might tell you something different, but I think I was one of the first ones to hear about it. I just don't think that the story had really been built yet. I think the idea was there, but the whole plot line, the story wasn't put together quite yet.
Okay.
And that was probably about 4 months after we finished Never Hike Alone. So I would say like 4 years ago.
Wow. Deborah said that it was it was a while ago for it, to get it done. Hayley, how about you? When did you first hear about this project and how did you come on board?
Yeah, so I actually first heard about this project, honestly, like I would say 2000. We filmed the Indiegogo 2018
I think
or
so.
2018. So I actually got a random, like out of nowhere email from Deborah Voorhees, and she was like, "Hey, I got your information from Vincent DeSanti. Will you want to audition for this Indiegogo campaign?" Essentially. So I auditioned via Skype a couple times, and then I booked the Indiegogo thing that we shot in New Mexico. We did that for a couple days, and she honestly just right off the spot was like, "I want you to be Kelsey,"
Which
and I was
is
like, "Hell yeah!"
which is the lead role in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got Dee Wallace. It's full of a
Of
huge
course.
cast, but you're like the lead role in this.
I know. I was like, okay, I'm totally down. I loved working with Deborah. It was an honor to work with her, and we clicked as a cast, like just during the Indiegogo, filming in New Mexico, like those 3 days. And it was just like, I think it was meant to be. She was sorry, my dog's just running around
No,
the
that's
back.
fine. That's cute.
And so it was basically, she said, I want you to be Kelsey, but of course, like I need to run it by a couple producers and X, Y, and Z. But I'm fighting for you, and it just kind of went from there. So I was
Nice.
honored to be picked.
Nice. Now, Ron, like you said, you were in
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, part 5, along with Deborah. You guys were both in that Friday the 13th Part 5. Was it just a natural that she just called you one day and said, Ron, do you want to be a part of this project?
No, it was interesting because Deborah and I have been at a number of conventions together over the years. And it was about, I'm thinking 4 years ago, something like that. We're at HorrorCon weekend in Columbus, Ohio. And Deborah was all, before the convention, hey, you want to go take a walk? And sure. Well, a walk to me is like a little stroll, go out, something mellow. Deborah likes getting cardio. So long walk. And almost after the walk, she said to me, I wrote a small part for you in a film. I'd be honored if you'd play it. And well, sure. Well, about a year and a half later, I get a script emailed to me, and I was on 27 pages of a 96-page script. And I was like, I told her, I go, I'm not complaining. You said a small part. She said, well, once I got to know you, your role got bigger. So it was over these last few years that, our friendship really blossomed. And I'm very fortunate she wrote the role for me.
That is so cool. Now
Oh my God.
now I have heard from many actors one of the hardest things to do is to play yourself. And 13 Fanboy is full of cast who are asked to play themselves. Now, what was your thoughts on doing that? Basically not playing a character with, specific traits or whatnot. To some degree, we're not going to give away spoilers here. But Drew, when you read this script and you saw the majority of the cast is going to be playing themselves, using their own names, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I didn't play myself, so
No.
I felt bad for them, and I was happy for me, I guess, in that sense. Because I think it is harder. Because you definitely have to, it's like everyone's got some sides themselves that they maybe aren't so proud of, and that's the scary part to bring to film. So in that sense, I was like, yeah, I get to be Chris, I get to be happy, and I almost am like, in a way, kind of trying to make it seem like I'm, a better boyfriend than I possibly am in a lot of scenes, and so for me it was a lot of fun. But then I'm sitting there with Ron, and Ron's like, fantastic dude, and I was sitting there, I was like, oh man, poor Ron. But then I watched the film and I was like, oh, Ron's great.
Yeah.
He's a killer dude, man. And same with everyone else. I did feel bad for them. There's at certain times where you're kind of like, I think for some of the women probably more so than like Ron and CJ, it's a little bit more scary for them because of the closeness that they get at some of these conventions with some of the fans.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they get a little bit more paranoid, especially after receiving certain letters. Like Deborah's shared some stories with us, and some of those things are pretty scary.
She shared it with us as well, and it is scary.
I think to share that personal side of you and to be that vulnerable and then actually have to display it on camera in front of whoever's going to see it, that's pretty nerve-wracking. And then also not only that, but to still be able to go to a convention after that has got to be even more scary for them, you know? And so for me being Chris, I was all for it. Now I'm Thor today, but for someone like Ron and everyone else that was like playing themselves, that's a little bit more vulnerability than I would have been willing to do. But it was beautiful. I loved it.
And that's why I want to go to you now, Ron. You did play yourself, okay? Your character's name was Ron. You played Ron Sloan. How different was that for you to do as an actor? Is it as difficult as I've heard a lot of other filmmakers and actors say? They can play a role, but when you ask them to play yourself, it's like a sort of a head scratcher.
Well, the whole thing is, yeah, you're right. Playing Junior in Friday the 13th was easier than playing myself as far as there are no limitations as a character. But really playing yourself, nobody really knows you but you. So I'm not limited on who I am because there are things in this movie I don't do in real life. No spoiler alerts. Um, so it's interesting because I did see a side of myself, and unfortunately, playing opposite Dee Wallace, she brought out a lot of things to me, and our chemistry was beyond amazing. Um, there was a side of myself that I hadn't really seen because my buttons have never really been pushed that hard before. I'm pretty level-headed, and I don't get too angry too often. She got me angry, but it was our chemistry that did it in the film. It was just fantastic.
Exactly.
So for me to look back at it in the film, wow, it was pretty powerful.
It all clicked. Now, Hayley.
Beyond.
Now, Hayley, were you impressed what Deborah was able to pull off and round up the cast from prior Friday the 13th movies that she did, and then add people like yourself to it to mix it up? That must have been impressive.
Oh, absolutely impressive. Deborah, like what I've learned from her in the last couple of years, she's a force to be reckoned with. If she puts her mind to it, she's going to do it. She's going to succeed. And, I'm so excited that it has come out now because it was like, I know she put her heart and soul into this project, so I'm not shocked, I'm impressed, of course, because she's an impressive person. So, I was just honored to be, for her to really put, like, just trust me with the lead, because it is like her passion project and having her full support. It's a great feeling. So
now,
honored.
you and Dee Wallace are like the stars of the film. Dee Wallace, I believe, plays your grandmother on the
like pseudo grandma.
Pseudo grandmother, yeah, in the movie. What was it like working with the legendary Dee Wallace? Were you intimidated a little bit at first, and how was she to work with?
I mean, of course, there's like a slight intimidation factor, before I meet her, but then you meet her and she's just like nothing but warm and welcoming. And I would say like I was more excited to work with her than nervous, working with this, horror legend icon, and she's been in the industry for so long. I was just excited for all the things that I could learn from her. And it was an absolute joy to work with her. She really took me under her wing and we clicked. We have great chemistry, and I felt like I've known her my whole entire life, honestly. We're like, and cool, now you're best friends with me. Amazing. It was easy, and it was, Deborah picked a great cast.
Yes.
We really became a family on set. So.
Absolutely. No question about that. Now, your character, Hayley, is a self-defense instructor.
Yeah.
What kind of preparation did you do to, play a self-defense instructor? Did Deborah offer you any kind of training? What kind of mindset did you have to get into to play that role?
Yeah, so I actually did a couple like one-on-ones at Fortune's gym in Hollywood. So I learned, some basics, and then one of my good guy friends, he taught me I was already doing boxing. Like not for the movie at all. Like I was already like into that world for like fitness, not like actually like sparring people, but just cardio.
Uh-huh.
I enjoyed it. So I mean, it wasn't completely out of my wheelhouse. I grew up in sports, so I feel like I just kind of jumped in ready for the challenge.
Nice.
Hopefully it plays.
Nice. Now, Ron, you're also a producer. You're listed as a producer on the film. We know IMDb is not 100% accurate, but clarify that for us. Were you also a producer in this film?
Yeah, it was sort of after the fact. Actually, I decided to be a part of it after the fact, after shooting. I was so impressed with everything. I actually asked to be a part of the production.
Nice.
So yeah, I became one of the executive producers on the film, but it was after the shooting.
That's fun. That's awesome. Now, Drew, you have had roles, not in the official Friday the 13th franchise, but there have been a spawn of shorts done in relation to Friday the 13th, fan films and whatnot. I mean, this franchise has spawned so much content out there. It's amazing. Uh, do you think that helped you in getting your role on 13 Fanboy?
No, for sure. Yeah, if I didn't do Never Hike Alone, I would have been in 13 Fanboy. Like, no doubt. I think it's more. It was. I mean, it Never Hike Alone and 13 Fanboy are similar in the sense that it took years in the making to like actually get both of them off the ground and get them running. Vinny and I like went and filmed out with a few other people like 3 or 4 years before, and we just completely scrapped the whole thing. And then 4 years later, we started doing Never Hike Alone. And right when Never Hike Alone finished, that's when I got a call from Vin, who forwarded the message from Deborah to tell me that she wanted to do something, and that again was like 3 or 4 years ago. And I think I talked to Deborah 2 years before we actually did the Indiegogo, where we went out and filmed for 3 days and just made it like a quick trailer. But I think you're right. Like without Never Hike Alone, I wouldn't be sitting here having this interview or being able to meet like the family I made on 13 Fanboy.
Yes. I mean, I don't say you wouldn't have gotten it, but being in
It
Never
would have been a
Hike
little bit harder,
Alone brought you to the attention. Now,
Yeah.
as you guys said, this film deals with a very real undertone on some fans not being able to separate fact from fiction, character from actor, and it's dramatized in this film in a really extreme level, but it's a real situation. It does happen. There are fans out there who don't separate the character from the actor. Hayley, how were there any moments during this shoot and knowing that this was part of the message that Deborah was trying to get out there that made you feel uncomfortable?
I mean, reading the script is enough to be like, oh, that's scary. Because with this day and age, like technology and social media, it's like everyone's tagging their location. So having stalkers or super fans, it's not the craziest thing. Obviously taking it to this extreme, hopefully it's, just stays in the movies. But yeah, of course, there's moments where, it is uncomfortable and it is a little nerve wracking. But that's like the horror, right?
Mm-hmm.
You like bring in that suspense, you bring in that, like, you ground that reality of like you're acting and you're like, okay, like this could happen. But I mean, hopefully it just stays friendly.
Exactly.
So yeah, of course it's creepy.
No,
Sure.
I think like a lot of it has to do with technology. Like technology can be a really great thing, especially in certain situations when you're trying to find something, and then also vice versa, it could be a really bad thing. Like I didn't know, for example, this is one thing. I didn't know Snapchat follows your location. Well, when I Snapchatted my sister and she's like, "You're sitting at home and it's 1 p.m. on your birthday. Are you hungover?" I'm like, "How the hell did she know that?" And she's like, "It's on your location on Snapchat." It's like, so it really can be great in certain situations. It also can be really bad depending on how far you take it. And I think with the evolution of technology, it probably just played more of a role into all these cases that some of these final girls had to go into in real life, though.
exactly. I totally,
Yeah.
I totally agree. Now, Ron, what was your feeling on this, having been in Friday the 13th Part 5 and representing a story about a stalker, somebody who's mentally disturbed, who we won't say who it is, but takes it to a different level and actually starts committing murders and, believes that Jason is a real killer?
Well, it's interesting because my very first convention, like 16 years ago, I was approached by a fan, the same situation that Deborah had, and it was pretty fearful as far as being by myself And a fan saying, wouldn't it be cool if you died in real life the way you died in the movie? Well, I got decapitated. No, it wouldn't be cool, but have a nice day. Actually, even at the screenings that we had, there was a fan I had seen from another state at a convention, and he was at the screenings. So, I mean, I thought, wow, man, this cat traveled 2,500 miles to come and see the film.
Yeah.
And, you can't help but go, okay, that's cool. A nice guy. Don't get me wrong, but, it does kind of go, wow.
Yeah, but you don't know them. You don't know what's going on in their head, and that's the fear factor.
No,
yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy can be anywhere.
Exactly.
It can hide in any form, and that's the worst part is.
What's nice is 99.99999%. I mean, the horror fans are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta tell you, there's just, great folks. I dig it, but this movie hits home. Who was it? Adrienne King. She had a stalker in real life. She went to court over this. There's been situations. So this is scary. This is scary.
And for Adrienne, to this day, she is very careful on what appearances she makes. Rightfully so. She's very careful on because it traumatizes you. It really makes you afraid. Now, moving on, Hayley and Drew, you guys were not a part of the official franchise. When you guys came into this movie and being surrounded by cast members that were in prior Friday the 13th movies, did you guys sort of bond, as sort of when you first came on set? Were you kind of feeling like the outsiders? And then eventually everyone embraced you and brought you into the family. Let's start with Drew.
Oh, man. No, I don't think so. I think it's a pretty easy family to become a part of, especially when you do enjoy similar things. And not only that, but it's like everyone that was on set with us and that I worked with, at least, just cared. And that was a really important part. And I think that's an important part, not just to films, but to friendships and relationships in general, is that you want to find people that you're surrounded by to care, whether you're caring for them, but it's got to be mutual, and I don't think there's someone that I cross paths with on set that didn't care. They're all there for a reason. They want to make a good film. And that was a big thing with Never Hike Alone's success. We didn't have a lot of people on that set, but they all cared enough to go outside and do more than just what they were there asked to do.
Exactly.
And same thing with 13 Fanboy is I think my first day there, we had to move from one Airbnb to the next, but it wasn't anyone was complaining or bitching about it. Everyone was yeah, fuck it. Let's hop to the next Airbnb and we'll get shooting as soon as possible. And everyone just picked up. It didn't matter whose belongings it was. It's oh, pick it up and we'll move it all together.
That's awesome.
And it just helped. It helped this momentum move into what we were actually trying to accomplish. And to become a part of that, it was not hard to fit in. All you had to do is pick up some bags and just work. And that was that.
And that is so important. The chemistry that is done behind the camera, everyone really caring, not just seeing it as another paycheck, but caring about the project and putting everything they have into it. That translates into what the viewers see on screen. Do you agree with that, Drew?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, of course. I think one of the things that, well, here's the story is, one of the scenes we were filming, Hayley was yelling at me because she had to get really into a depressed state, and would be crying on film. And so she had to get into that mindset, and I'm on the other side, and if you've seen it, my character for the most part has pretty fun little scenes. So I was kind of just that way all around set. And so I think I was singing, some song while
Opera
I was peeing.
Or something?
No, it was that Angel Celtic song. I can't remember what it's called now. But anyways, or Celtic Angels song. In the arms of... that one. an angel. And I was singing in the bathroom. I just hear Hayley from like 2 rooms over. Drew, shut the fuck up. And I was like, uh-oh. You know, but at the same time, like there's a mindset for everyone, and the production level is, it's like, you don't want to waste a second of production's time.
Yeah.
And I think that's the cool part too, is that we're able to sit there and banner out these moments and like really get into it. And like what Ron was saying with D is like, yeah, there's times where like they went at it, but at the same time, that's how like close we all were, is that we were able to do that. And then you flip the script, and the next scene might be like something completely different. We were able to do that just as well. You know?
Nice.
So I agree
Nice.
with like how close we were.
Now, Hayley, how about you? Was there any kind of intimidation factor coming into a cast of former Friday the 13th members?
I mean, more excitement, honestly. I remember, like, really shortly after meeting everybody, I remember Ron was like, oh, like, tell me about all the conventions and, like, the experience. And he's like, well, you know, you're part of the family now. Like, and that's really how I was welcomed into the movie, into the cast. And I didn't feel like I was an outsider at all. You know, it's just very much like, hey, like, you know, Deborah speaks very highly of you. And we all just had like a pizza night kind of like before like the first day of shooting, you know.
What?
And we all just got oh, you weren't there, I don't think. Sorry.
Oh, thanks.
The invitation must have gotten lost in the mail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
shoot.
something like
I
that.
saved you a slice, Drew. I saved you a
Oh,
slice. I
nice.
still have it.
It was more of like
Tip
a
it on
potluck,
over.
Drew. The food was great. Just kidding.
I like food too. I
But
like
yeah,
pizza and
no,
food.
it wasn't intimidating. It wasn't like any sort of like, oh, like you were never in a Jason film. It was like, you ready to do this project? Welcome. Let's like, you know, work our asses off and make a really cool film.
Yep.
You know, and that's kind of how it was, you know, the whole entire time. So
Nice.
we
nice.
got lucky.
Now, Ron, the film came out October 22nd, if I'm correct. That's 9 days ago. It's still brand new. But what are the reactions you were hearing from the fans, if you're getting any so far, on what they think about the film?
Well, so far, at least personally, everything's been really positive. I mean, I really feel like we hit a home run. You know, I haven't really seen any negativity towards this. I think the horror community has been kind of starving for something like this, especially with the Friday the 13th folks, because of the whole lawsuit and everything over Friday the 13th and all that. So this was a pretty good, tasty morsel for them. Yeah, no, you know, I've only read maybe 5 or 6 reviews. I've had a lot of whether instant messages or things on Facebook, just all positive. I mean, and it made me feel good.
And you're right.
You know, it's hard to see yourself, you know, and judge. I mean, I'm happy with how the film came out. I'm happy. I mean, and a strong cast. You know, Hayley and I got to work together in a scene, which is not in the film.
Oh yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it's just, we had a great chemistry together. D, you know, and this is just going back to something you were asking before the shooting. That party that I was at, that party with Hayley, I'm assuming it's the same party, but when I arrived, Dee was sitting there, and I walked up to her and I introduced myself. I said, Dee, I'm Ron Sloan. I play your husband. She's all, oh, hell, I better get to know you because we have to sleep together.
I love Dee. She's so fun.
That was a bedroom scene. Again, it's not in the movie, but there was no sex. It was just her comment that was just, it broke the ice, and we have just such a wonderful relationship.
That is so
she was
cool.
Hilarious on that. I mean,
that is so cool. Now, like Ron just said, we as fans have not had any new Friday the 13th content since 2009. Now that's like 12 years and counting. So when like the shorts, Never Hike Alone, are released, people embrace them. There are a lot of fan films, and now we have 13 Fanboy, which is not an official Friday the 13th movie, but it gives us that taste back of Jason Voorhees, the cast, and bringing it together. Um, I got to ask you, Hayley, were you a Friday the 13th fan before you took this project on?
I mean, I was definitely aware of the franchise. I think everybody in the world is aware of Jason. But I won't lie, like I wasn't like I wasn't like a die-hard fan by any means. But I always loved him at the end of like the haunted houses with like the chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always embraced him for sure. But I didn't see all of the slashers up until after like being cast and really after filming. Because meeting all of these people, it was like it made it way more fun to watch them, and see them in the movies and everything like that. And it made it a
Yeah,
little
it's like
less
seeing like
scary.
a best friend. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, watch
You
out!
know,
Oh no, Dad,
like-
your eyes!
It's like
Shit.
that Leonardo DiCaprio, and there's a meme out there where he's in Wolf of Wall Street, and he's sitting there drinking his drink, and he's like, there he is. And it's like that's what you see whenever you watch one of the movies now. If I see Ron, I know him. And it's like, oh, it's so much better now. It makes it a lot more. It really brings back that sense of family that we all had in set. I feel like every time you watch a film
Exactly.
now for us.
Yeah. Now,
Mhm.
Drew, you have done, like you said, Never Hike Alone. You have done previous Friday the 13th associated content.
Mhm.
Do you think 13 Fanboy is, what the fans need right now to at least start rejuvenating interest in this franchise? To maybe someday, once the lawsuits are completely settled, we can actually get a new movie back on the screen?
Well, I don't think the interest has ever needed to be rejuvenated. I think it's always been there, right? I think the fans are just creeping up, waiting at the movie theaters for the next one to come along. So I don't think that was ever a case, but I do think it gave way to more storytelling in a sense that, once we did Never Hike Alone, once we did that, it was like we had more fans that came out there and they want to put their own spin on it, which I think is really cool because it gives everyone in the franchise that loves the franchise an opportunity to see what other ideas might be able to be out there and how they play out.
Yeah.
Or once you start watching it, and you like maybe you'll watch one, you'll be like if you watch Never Hike Alone, you might be like, well, this could have used more kills. Well, that could play out differently in someone else's head, and maybe that's like what comes next, And so I think it maybe doesn't rejuvenate the energy or anything, but it does bring a sense back to like where it all came from. And I think that's what 13 Fanboy did really well, is that it took us back to more of like the storytelling of when Friday the 13th was being made and when they had all these really successful parts going through, and Halloween and everything. But if you look at Halloween now, I just watched it the other night and I was like, I kind of miss that like old way of storytelling,
Mhm.
where it's a little bit more played out into each character rather than just going and playing out to the killer. And I think that's kind of what's cool with that 13 Fanboy does, is like, I was worried before, I won't lie, that there's so many alumni and characters all in this one script. How is Deborah going to do this? But the way she did it happened to do it justice to all the other Friday the 13th in the past. This is how they did it. This is their formula. Well, you know what? I'm going to stick to that same formula and do that with all of my characters that I brought back. And she did a really great job at it.
She did. Now, Hayley, what did you feel of how Deborah really made all the women characters in the movie, really empowered them, strong women, you being the head of the pack, I would say, out of all of them. What did you think of that aspect?
Honestly, that was one of my favorite aspects, because I had a lot of friends ask me, like, when they found out I was going to be in a horror film, they were like, oh no, like, do you die? And like, do you go into the basement? Like, just like that, like typical slasher, and I was like, actually, no, Kelsey's a badass. And it made her so much more fun to play. And, I feel like Kelsey truly has so many different layers with her, like, honestly, PTSD and her trauma and everything that she has going on in her life. Kelsey doesn't run, she gets pissed off and she, and she goes. And
but she like stands up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not gonna leave. Like, you're out of your goddamn mind. you know. So I really do love how Deborah brought that, like empowering women, and I feel like, me, like outside of Kelsey, like I always watch those like films and I'm like, wait, no, don't go into the basement with the chainsaws hanging on the wall,
Yeah,
and it was easier to play and more realistic, and I felt like my character was more grounded.
exactly.
So it was nice to really, dig my boots in and kind of kick some ass.
And
So
personally,
I mean,
oh, go on.
there's another cool thing too, that there's also like our lead investigator, Deborah Sullivan, who's Adam Marks' wife. That's another woman that's in charge of the police department that's looking into Kelsey's case during this whole thing and Dee's case. And that's another like leading woman that you have in this whole mix of a bunch of final girls who are not really so much final girls. They're more like badass women. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that the industry
For
is
sure.
finally, over the last several years, going in that direction. Well, not only with bringing on more women filmmakers, which is desperately needed, but to try to get rid of this stereotype of a woman in a horror. She's either going to be, oh no, the Scream Queen, which got, that label started in the late 70s and 80s, to now women standing up and empowering themselves just as much as the men are in these horror movies. Now, that brings me to you, Ron. You have been doing horror for a long time. Now, from like Friday the 13th Part 5 to 13 Fanboy, what are some of the biggest changes that you have noticed in this genre?
Oh, that's a tough one. When when Friday the 13th Part 5 came out, as you know, it was panned. And so it was more of the copycat killer, and I mean, I saved a couple clippings of write-ups from Variety and the Hollywood Reporter back in the day that happened to mention the I can't remember the exact quote, something to do with the ham hillbillies next door or something along those lines. And I figured, any review is better than no review at all. Your mention. It's kind of interesting now because I think it's more of a seriousness, Friday the 13th. Well, in Part 5, I was comic relief. In this movie,
No.
there's the only comic relief, maybe two clips. One with Carol Lockettell, who played my mom. We have a little quick little scene at a convention, and you can't help but laugh. It's a memory. It's a good memory.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, I love the scene with Kane Hodder, when he is talking with Jennifer Banco. And I gotta tell you, I don't know Kane personally, except for just meeting him at a convention fairly recently. I think just what he pulled off was really deep, really great. And I loved, not to give any spoiler, but geez, he's talking to Jennifer, and she's crying and yelling, and he's all, hey, you don't have to yell, I'm right here. I mean, it's funny. It broke up this heavy energy, and it really showed a really delicious, emotional part of Kane. And, as you guys know, Kane was Jason.
For a long time.
Yeah.
So
to see the human side, he's awesome. And Jennifer did a great job.
As well, yeah, absolutely. I met Kane like back in the 90s at a convention, right after, when he started appearing as Jason. And he is a very busy guy. He's coming out with movie after movie. And not only did Deborah bring Kane, she brought CJ Graham, who played Jason in Part 6. I met CJ for the first time this past May. Now, both these guys are big guys, okay? You do not want to mess with them. So, Hayley, let me ask you this question. What was it like working, with two of the most popular people that played Jason Voorhees?
It was an honor, to be honest, though, I actually never met Kane, because we had different shooting schedules. I was in New Mexico, but like we just didn't cross paths, unfortunately. So I'll have to meet him eventually, maybe at a convention or so. But I did work pretty heavily with CJ Graham, and he was amazing. He would give me pointers and stuff during the fight scene. He was just like nothing but support. And I loved working with him. We have like a little bit emotional scene where he's like following me to the hotel room, so we were able to, get like real and, get a little like, like Kelsey's doing some like PTSD, like panic attack moment. And, it was great to work with someone who, he wasn't singing in the background, Andrew, but it was great. He was a joy to work with, truly. And I hope I get to see him, hopefully we get to all work together again, because that would be the dream.
Now, Drew, one of the reasons what makes 13 Fanboy so good, in my opinion, is the plot twist within the plot twist, okay? Now, of course, we're not giving away any spoilers, but when you first read the script and you got to the third act, what do you think of Deborah's plot twist?
I liked it. I mean, I knew when I read it, I guess, because I knew it was going down. But I think the great part too was that it kept you on your toes, because it's not like you have no idea where this is coming from, and that's the scary part, I think, for all these women that have had to deal with it before, is like, where is this coming from? Like, they have no idea. And so I guess in that third act, it does solidify it a little bit, but then at the same time, if you're being aware of everything in life, like that's just one perpetrator that you're like stopping, but there's definitely got to be more people like this one person out there, and that's a scary part. And I think that's a scary part for a lot of people that are going through these things, because it's not just the final girls, but women in general got to deal with this. And
a lot of this film
does bring a little bit of light.
Yeah, a lot of this film is a whodunit. They're trying to figure out who it is, who's doing all this.
Yeah. And you're putting your feelers out there to figure it out, but at the same time, when you're in the audience and you're watching it, or you're reading it too, like you're sitting there, you're like, he's sketchy. She's even kind of sketchy. Like, I don't know, and so that's the great part about it, is it leaves this huge question up to the audience until you get to that final piece in the picture, and that's like when it brings it all back together.
Exactly. Now, Ron, Corey Feldman is in this movie. Now, Corey is Tommy from Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, and Friday the 13th Part 6, played by Tom Matthews. Very popular character in the franchise. What did you think about Corey Feldman being in 13 Fanboy, but not playing himself?
Oh, Corey was really great in the role he played in the film. I think he was very comfortable with it. He had a lot of fun with it, and so you could take his part and actually see a sense of humor.
Oh yeah,
Corey. So it's not just. We all know Corey as a different. I met Corey 16 years ago, and he definitely played a character in 13 Fanboy different than himself. So there was definitely a versatility there. I thought he brought an interesting character to the film, and I love the scene between Drew and Corey. It got me laughing pretty good, because you never think of Corey as just some little guy. At least I never thought of him that way. I never thought of that at all. And then seeing him standing next to Drew, who don't let this go to your head. You're in a down compared to Corey.
Ron.
Just in that scene,
I'm feeling good on
he
Halloween now.
You know, he looks just kind of like a little mousy guy compared to. I mean, it was pulled off beautifully, and that's where the casting was great.
And he
So,
brought a lot of
yeah,
comic
They did a
relief.
great job blocking it too.
Yeah, and
Yeah, he definitely did.
he brought a lot of comic relief to the movie as well. Now, as you all three mentioned, the film it really spent a long time getting it together and put it in, finally going into production. I'm sure at some point, each and every one of you must have had doubts if this thing was ever going to see the light of day. Hayley, what can you share with that about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all did at some point. Like, I knew, like, Deborah is very, like, driven, and I knew that, like, the thing that made me hesitant and worried was the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nobody was expecting that. And so I think that's when I started being like, ooh, like, I know we wrapped, but, like, the whole industry right now is kind of, like, up in the air, pause, like, nothing's really going on. You know, when theaters were closed, and I was just like, what's gonna happen? You know, so I think, with everybody in different fields, we all kind of were, wondering what was gonna happen next. 2020, dun dun dun. But I am really happy that it finally came out. It was a long time coming, but it was just a lot of love and passion behind it. So I'm thrilled that it's out. I know Deborah is, and everybody else.
Now, Drew, how prominent is horror for you personally? Are you a big horror fan?
Oh, I love it. But like, I think horror's got so many mini genres in it that it's kind of hard to say that I'm like a true horror fan because I don't love all the different genres.
Neither do
I. And I just kind of like, I guess my whole thing's I'm a big fan of psychological thrillers. I really like true crime, even though those aren't necessarily horror. But like, I just finished watching the first two documentaries of the West Memphis 3, which is really great too. But like, I don't know why I just love really dark tales, whether they're tales or not. They're true or fiction. True or fiction, right? Is that right? Or nonfiction. Yeah, but
you're so cute.
Anyways, I do like horror. But what I'm trying to say is that Friday the 13th, Halloween, those were never really on my radar, I guess, until I did Never Hike Alone, and then that was when, I had to study, and that became like a point in time for me where it was like, well, shit, slashers are a lot better than what I had mocked them up to be, because to me it was always just like a brutal massacre for people that had like really no meaning to it, and that was only because maybe sorry, my dog just walked in dressed as a taco right now, but yeah, that was kind of like what slashers were to me. This is how she walked in.
Oh my god!
But
that is too cute.
it was. It's like, once I sat down with people who were part of the film, or someone like Vinny, who just is such a lover of Friday the 13th and all Halloween, all the slasher sort of films, that's when I came to understand the passion behind it and how important it is to not so much tell the story, but perfect each scene, because it's like any tiny mistake that you might make, or timing is like very essential to every kill. That's where it becomes a big part of the story.
Yeah.
So you might read something, I might read a script and I might be like, well, this is cool, but this isn't believable. But then all of a sudden you go and watch it on film, and it changes your mind completely, and you're like, oh, no, this is nuts. Like, this is like a kid's worst nightmare. And I think that's like the best part about it is with the movie I was just watching, West Memphis 3, the documentary. It's called Lost, or Fantasy Lost, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Paradise Lost is what it's called. At the end of the first one, the man who stands on trial says, I'm going to be known as the West Memphis Boogeyman. Kids are going to look under their bed looking for Damien. And he ends up being taken off death row. He's now a free man. And to tell that story, but watching the first documentary, you look at him as a bad guy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what the feeling is when you watch some of these scary movies and scary films, like Freddy Krueger, for example. Like, I had nightmares of the boogeyman for the longest time because of Freddy Krueger, and it's all about the timing that the directors and the production team put into each kill and each scene. And then also the actors, the timing that they put into each of their characters.
And to this day,
That becomes a part
the
of it.
first Nightmare on Elm Street is scary as hell. That movie is scary.
Oh,
the
yeah.
first one. It's terrifying. Now, Hayley,
Yeah.
we're almost out of time,
Mhm.
but now that you've gotten a taste of doing a horror movie, is it something you would like to do again? You would seek out?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's fun. Like, I loved watching the special effects artist, like, just, it's art, you know what I mean? And just like seeing what they do behind the scenes too, because I was like, the house we were staying at, like, the special effects makeup artist was like staying with us. And so she was like prepping it the night before, prepping like the weapons and everything. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, I've never been around anything like that. Like, I've did like some like college, horror film where they would just kind of like throw blood on me as I was stabbing. But like, I've never had like the tubes and the dummies and everything else. And like, it was cool. And I would definitely be open to doing more horror films. Of course, I hear the fans are, passionate and loyal. And I think those are two great qualities to have in a fan base.
Yeah.
Horror
fans are the best. They are the best. They are loyal.
Be more excited for it.
Yeah. Now, how about you,
I'm
Ron?
gonna meet some. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was gonna.
Oh no, you're good. I was just saying I'm excited to meet, because I'm going to Dark Fest in London with Deborah, and so that'll be like my first like convention sort of at all, really.
Oh, so you never actually participated in it? Oh, that's gonna be an experience.
I know. I'm excited.
It's game time.
Oh, that's gonna be an experience. You're gonna love it.
I've had people message me on Facebook being like, hey, and Instagram, hey, I live in Ireland. I'm going to meet you in London. I'm so excited. I'm just like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, so,
yeah.
I mean, yes, I'd be honored to continue to do horror films, because why not? It's fun.
It's absolutely fun. And in my opinion, it's probably the most popular genre out there right now. For some reason,
especially on Halloween,
in this scary-ass world that we're living in today, the real world, you would think people would be turning away from horror. No, they are turning more towards horror to distract themselves from
it's an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It's like,
it is an adrenaline
even
rush.
we get done with a scene, and like certain scenes, and maybe not my character Chris in this one, for example, but like you get done with a certain scene, and it's like you're still high off of this adrenaline rush that you just experienced for the past 2 hours of filming, like maybe a 2 minute part that goes on screen. But to us, like, that takes a lot of energy, and it also is one of those highs that you don't really get. You only get it naturally.
Yeah.
And so to be able to take that and then go into the next day or something like that, and then to see the audiences react to it, it means a lot more once you get that reaction than it does actually in the moment, maybe.
Exactly.
It's worth it.
That's actually the fun part, like going to the screenings this last weekend, the audience's reaction. That's I love hearing, whether it's screams or, oh no, that's just the good stuff.
It puts all the work that you put into it, it makes it worth it, to bring that entertainment to the fans. Guys, we're out of time. I want to thank you all so much. For our viewers, please check it out. The movie is called 13 Fanboy. It's available on every major transactional platform like Amazon, Vudu. What, 4? Is that what you're saying?
Apple TV.
Yeah. Oh, that's 1-3. 13 Fanboy.
13 Fanboy.
Can't name it. It's
it's on Amazon. It's on Apple TV. It's on Vudu. Anywhere you normally rent or buy movies, it's available. You won't be disappointed, especially if you're a fan of the Friday the 13th franchise. This is awesome. It has a great plot twist. that one day I'll be able to talk about with the cast here. But, who knows? I so want to say, but I can't.
You were that.
Yeah, yeah. All right, guys.
I'm sorry to
we
see
can review. Why don't we do this? We can all come back. We can do like a commentary
Yeah,
on the movie, and then have a Q&A after. So that way, we've watched it all, and then do the Q&A after, and we all talk about it.
that sounds awesome. In fact, that's how I watched it with my team. Deborah was nice enough to get me a screener, and I held a watch party with my team, and we all watched it
that's
together, and that was pretty fun. It was pretty awesome. I want to thank you guys again so much for doing this. Enjoy your
Of
Halloween.
course. Thank you.
I hope the movies.
Thank you so much.
I see no reason why this movie's not going to be a big hit. It's only been out for 9 days. As word of mouth spreads, it's going to gain more and more momentum. It's going to be a big hit. Congratulations to all three of you. And I definitely hope to talk to you guys again. Thank you. I want to thank our audience for tuning in today. Enjoy your Halloween. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Thank you to Drew Leighty, Hayley Greenbauer, and Ron Sloan. Everybody.
Thanks so much for having us.
Oh, it is my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you so much, man.
My
That was
pleasure.
awesome.
My
Happy
pleasure.
Halloween.
And stay
Happy
safe.
Halloween.
And guys, stay walking. Till next time.
Take care.
Bye.